Greg Smith here, national recruiting analyst with Rivals.com, and I'm joined by a very special guest on our National Signing Day coverage, Christian Jones, four-star linebacker out of Omaha West Side. Thought it'd be a really good idea to have some of the top 25 guys on here to kind of get their recruitments out there into the forefront as we turn the page. So first things first, man, Christian, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Uh, Thank you. Thank you for being on. I am well. It's busy, hectic as always around these times, but that's a good thing. It's a good problem to have to be busy. But you would know about that because you're always pretty busy now with your recruitment, with everything going on. You just took kind of a swing through Florida. So tell me about kind of what all you did while you're down in the state of Florida.
Yeah, so I visited UCF and saw Coach Roof from the new DC there at UCF. He recruited me for a couple of years at Oklahoma and visited with him, continued that relationship there. Saw what UCF was about, saw the Bounce House, and
Yeah.
figured out why it was called the Bounce House. And yeah, beautiful campus, great people there, and for sure we want to get back down there. And
Yeah.
then went to Gainesville and saw the swamp,
Yeah.
and that is a very very cool campus as well. They have really cool facilities, and met with some of their coaches. Coach Roberts had a inside linebacker kind of individual meeting after everything,
Okay.
so that was cool to see what they're about, and they're very linebacker driven defense. So that was cool to learn about. Yeah,
Yeah.
overall great weekend in Florida. Nice palm trees, warm
Oh yeah.
weather.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is always interesting. It's funny because so you mentioned that beautiful campus at UCF. My sister went there, so like I know all about it. I've been there a few times, and it's one of the few college campuses, and I know you've been to a bunch of schools it's a newer campus, so it just
hmm
feels so much different than basically every other campus that you go to.
Yeah, it felt like a big shopping mall almost. Very
Yeah.
young energy. It was just
Mhm.
really neat how they set it all up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and one thing you mentioned, kind of the linebacker driven defense at Florida, is that something that kind of you're looking for as you kind of start as you're evaluating schools, kind of how they utilize linebackers within their system, and what kind of questions do you maybe ask when you're in those film sessions with those guys to try to figure that out?
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm definitely looking for a defense as a linebacker-driven defense for them to strive in and blitz off the edge or come off the edge or utilize them in a lot of different ways and cover. I
Mhm.
want a defense that are going to use their linebackers in man-to-man because in the pros they do a lot of man-to-man.
Right.
And then the questions I ask are really, what's the culture of the room?
Okay.
What do you expect out of your linebackers every day? What are your expectations? And how do you hold them accountable? Kind of my main ones. Then you get
Okay.
down to the X's and O's.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it's interesting too because you probably get a nice wide range of answers on the how do you hold guys accountable, right?
hmm
And which is really interesting because you get a real nice insight into what those coaches are like. So I guess
hmm
as you start to, when you think about kind of related to that, some of the coaches that are maybe standing out to you at this point, I guess, who are some of the coaches that when you think, man, I know I can call that guy and have a good conversation. Do you have any guys like that right now?
I mean, all of them, honestly. They're all really good people to talk with. But some of the linebackers right now that I could call that I'd have a good talk to would be Coach Roof from UCF.
Mhm.
Really like him a lot. Um, it was Coach Ingle from Washington, but I don't know. They're gone now.
Yeah.
Then Coach Dvorak from Nebraska. Good conversations there. Then Coach Matt Mitchell from Wisconsin.
Okay.
Always good conversations there. And yeah, those are kind of some of the guys that
Yeah.
always pick up the phone, have good relationships with.
Nice. And then when you think, it's interesting, you named some schools that are kind of all over, right? Like we're talking, Florida, home in Nebraska, up in Wisconsin, the staff that was at Washington. Like
hmm
when you're looking around, like how important or is it important about like distance from home or just like getting kind of seeing something different? Like, have you thought about anything like that as far as your recruitment goes?
Yeah, I thought about it many times, and at the end of the day, me and my family wants what's best for me, and I want to go to a place where I want to spend four of my years there. I don't want to hit the transfer portal after a year,
Yeah.
and I want to be able to be a student when football is not going on.
Right.
So wherever that best fit is, I'm willing to go wherever if it's California to Florida.
Right. And it's interesting. You've got a one of my favorite kind of wrinkles in a 2025 recruitment is with yours, because you've got some teammates that are that are going to be interested to see, or former teammates, because that are at different schools, right? So you've got some former teammates at Notre Dame,
Hmm.
you've got some at Nebraska specifically, as well. So what have those conversations been like for you with those guys? And kind of, I know everybody wants you to then come to their school. So how do you kind of navigate that, and hearing from some of your friends that have gone to other schools?
I mean, a majority of the time we don't really talk about football,
Mhm.
but when it does be talked, it's usually jokingly like, "Hey, you look good in green," or "You
Mhm.
look good in red." Um, but yeah, uh, my friends are really really good about it. No one's really pressured me into
Mhm.
anything. They want what like all my friends say, you can go wherever you want, and I'll still have your back. So there's no really pressure into
Okay.
committing to a school where any of my friends are at. So
Got
that's
you.
good. I'm blessed to have that.
Yeah, and what I've always thought too in some of those situations, and I've always wondered this, so I'll ask you now: is that do you think that that's also because those guys have gone through the process themselves, and so they know what it was like to have different people maybe pulling them in one direction or
Hmm.
another, so they try not to do that for the next guy coming up?
Oh yeah, for sure. All of them are like that. I mean, all of them
Yeah,
know that recruiting is a lot of energy,
right.
and they don't want to be another guy just chirping in your ear. And so yeah, everyone's very hands off. Just they want what's best for me. And so yeah, it's really good to have friends like that.
Got you. And then I guess, as we kind of spin it forward and look forward to kind of spring visits, as you guys can get out and see some practices. Do you have any places in mind that you'd like to go check out for spring ball?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna check out Tennessee, and then I might go back to UCF for spring
Mhm.
practice, and then OU and Nebraska and Wisconsin. Trying to get
Mhm.
to some of those schools, see how, excuse me, some coaches coach, and see how their
Right.
practices are ran.
Got you. All right, man. Well, hey, Christian, I appreciate the time very much, man. That's Christian Jones, four-star linebacker out of Omaha West Side, getting the latest on his recruitment. Make sure you keep it locked on rivals.com for full coverage of his recruitment and everyone else's as we move forward through the 2025 class. And we'll talk to you guys later.